Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining the NCORE webinar series. My name is Justin Links. I use he, him pronouns, the Senior Administrator for the program for the NCORE conference. Thank you for joining us to our webinar today on the theme and context of Hawaii, setting our context. As we begin, I want to let you know that we are in a webinar format, and so we're going to need you to ask your questions using the Q&A function. We had hoped to use the meeting format for this, but we had such a number of RSVPs that we needed to go to the webinar format so that we could have more people join. Before we begin in earnest, I'd like to ask if our Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners will start us off. Noi.
Aloha, Justin, and everybody. Velina, aloha mai kako, o Noi Wang Wilson ko uinoa, no kaiviki moku o keawe mai au. O mauna ke a ko mauna, o hilo one ko ukai, o wailuku ko ukahapai, ke velina o ke aloha. Greetings, I'm Noi Wang Wilson. I reside in Kaiviki on the eastern slope of Mauna Kea on Moku o Keawe, the traditional name of Hawaii Island, the largest of our islands in the archipelago known as Hawaii. I give honor to Mauna Kea, my mountain, Hilo'one, my ocean, and Wailuku, my river. I greet you with great affection. I'm here today with Kumuhula Pua Case, my friend, colleague, and Mauna sister, to share our mana'o or thoughts with you as you consider participating in the 36th annual NCORE conference, which will be held on Oahu from May 29 to June 1st, 2024. Pua and I, along with our colleague Mahina Paishan, have been working with Justin, Anthony, and your planning committee to help shape this upcoming conference so that you will have the most culturally appropriate, informative, meaningful experience during your brief visit to our islands. We're excited that the committee has chosen the theme, Setting Our Compass, to guide all of us to ensure that the experience of all of you attendees, as well as our community, is enhanced by your presence. We strive to ensure that NCORE will set the standard for those who follow, to positively contribute to our aina, our land, our people, our residents, and our community, our economy, by being good stewards. We look forward to this discussion today, and we're here to answer your questions to the best of our ability. And we're going to help set our compass right now by asking Pua Case to open this webinar with a pule, or chant. Mahalo nui, this is Pua.
Aloha mai kako o Pua Case ko uinoa o mauna a wakea ku mauna. My name is Pua Case. I'm from Moku o Keawe, as is Noi, and Mauna a wakea is my mountain. And because we come from a people who sailed the ocean blue to get here, a people who set their compass in order that they would arrive here and make Hawaii their home, we begin today by setting our compass. And what does it mean to set our compass? Within our protocol, it means e ala e kahiki e. It means that we wake up. So we begin today's exchange with all of you by waking up our spirit, our mind, our heart, our entire being, so that we can embrace the message in an exchange that is meant to be filled with aloha. So e ala, we arise, we wake. E ala e kahiki e hume kamalo a ai ka ai. And in order to go on this journey together in setting our compass, we have to adorn ourselves in what it is that we bring of ourselves, and nourish ourselves and make sure that we are ready. And e hopu kalima I kahoi, then we gather our sail plan. We gather our ideas and our intention and our information and hoya, and we set sail. So that is going to be the intention of this opening protocol. So when you arrive in Hawaii, this is the kind of protocol you're going to see. It's about setting the stage, standing on a foundation, preparing a sail plan that enables us to arrive at a destination. It is about setting our compass. So I'm going to do this 3 times in order for our kino, our bodies, our spirits, and our minds to fully immerse and prepare. And as we do here, I'm going to start it softly and gently because it's a greeting to you. And then you're going to see that I'm going to do it at a larger volume with more of a spirit because now I've met you and I'm able to exchange with you. So again, we are rising, we are preparing, we are gathering all that we need, and then we are setting our compass to our destination and our goal for today. And that is to make sure that you feel welcome to Hawaii and what that will mean for you as an experience when you arrive here. So here we go. E ala e kahiki e ala e kahiki e hume ka maloa ai ka ai. E hopu ka limai ka hoi a hoia. E ala e kahiki e ala e kahiki e hume ka maloa ai ka ai. E hopu ka limai ka hoi a hoia. E ala e kahiki e ala e kahiki e hume ka maloa ai ka ai. E hopu ka limai ka hoi a hoia. So let us grab our paddles. Let us get our sail plan together. Let us set our compass and let us sail.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pua. I speak on behalf of the people watching. That was really powerful and deeply appreciated. Like to welcome you and Noi, as well as Ricardo Torres, who is the chair of the Native Delegation for NCORE, dear friend. Anthony Natali, who is the director of the Southwest Center for Human Relations Studies and the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity here in University Outreach at the University of Oklahoma, and my other colleague, Dr. Asia Mew, who is our development officer, projects officer, special projects officers, starting new programs for the Southwest Center for Human Relations Studies and working with NCORE. Welcome to all of you. We are short a few of the committee of us that have been considering how to bring NCORE into the context of Hawaii. Pai'aina, I know that we've been working with Mahina, who you mentioned. We're also missing Macarusa Portizano, who is the chair of the newly establishing Pacific Islander Caucus, also consulting with us to establish a caucus or a thought group that's focusing on climate change and connecting that with the intersection of the focus of this conference. And so bring them into the room in our thoughts. They've had a great impact on our deliberations. And so I want to bring in these questions that we thought would be good to answer for our community. And I want to remind people again to submit questions into the Q&A so that we can look at them and answer to those as we can. And I want to start as you mentioned, Pua, that we have set a theme for the first time in my time of over 20 years working for the NCORE conference, which is to setting our compass. This theme is a profound reference to Native Hawaiian values, traditions, and practices, and we recognize that it also connects to NCORE values, providing an aspirational focus for the NCORE community. So it's a lot. I wonder if you might share some of what these values call forth that can be shared with participants, that knowing that you already shared some.
Aloha mai kākou. As I said before, we come from a voyaging society, a voyaging people. We're a sail plan and an outcome. We're goal-driven, we're destination-driven, but we're also unification-driven, which means that we're looking at introducing a theme and values that we all can embrace together, so that we're on a journey, a collective, combined journey that is not your people, your attendees, and us, the hosts, but actually we're looking at taking this journey together, where we have a saying that if we don't paddle and bail together, we can never get anywhere. So what we're providing for you in this experience that maybe you've had before as NCORE attendees in Indigenous communities, or maybe you haven't, but we're here to provide you with an opportunity to be embraced, not just by the people that you meet, but by the environment that you're in, and by the protocols, the life ways, the culture, and the values that we share. So as I said, unification of thought, mind, spirit is going to get us closer to achieving a common goal. And we see that in our Hawaii right now, in the way that we are moving forward in issues, in challenges, in lifestyle choices that we're making here in Hawaii. And we're really going to do our very best to make sure that you are involved as a participant in that, and not so much as a guest or a stranger to our Hawaii. Let us set the stage so that you feel welcome, and that you have an understanding and a knowledge base that enables you to come to Hawaii in a different way. You're not going to be a tourist here. You're going to have an experience that we have set forward for you. We have laid, as we say, we have laid the mat down for you, and we will be welcoming you, but also giving you enough information and instruction that you have an understanding of what you're stepping onto when you step onto our pai'aina, when you step onto our moku, when you step onto our lands.
Maybe I can add to that, Justin. My background here is one Hawaiian star compass, which we use in navigation. It was created in modern times by Nainoa Thompson, who is our very well-known navigator that was trained along with others in celestial navigation, non-instrument navigation. So the other notion that I would like to share is that we will work with NCORE and all of the participants to help you shift from your continental consciousness, which most of you are coming from in the great continent of the United States, and moving into the island consciousness, which we live in here in Hawaii. It's a very different way of approaching the relationship with land and the relationship with our environment. Our compass, as an example, is not set to magnetic north. It depends on, and it focuses on the rising and setting of our celestial markers. So the sun, the moon, and stars. So our whole frame of reference here in Hawaii is different. We reference our mountain and our ocean, in determining the direction, even which direction we're driving our car, as opposed to north, south, east, or west, which is probably something that people who live in large land masses or on the continent are more familiar with. So it's this transition that we offer for you to experience when you're here for the brief time that you will be with us, and that we expect as good visitors to our home that there is a code of conduct which we will introduce to you, or which is being introduced through the pledge to our keiki and other forms that Justin, I'm sure, will explain. But as you visit your grandmother's house and you make sure that your behavior is appropriate, we ask the same as we would visit your home, and act appropriately. So yes, thank you, Justin.
Very good.
The next question I'd like us to consider, and this is maybe something that NCORE staff can reflect on as well and answer to, is knowing that we're sharing this theme at a time when people are preparing proposals to present that will be considered for presentation. What recommendations do you have for those who are reflecting on those themes as they're developing their proposals to present at NCORE? And is there something that you would like them to know as they make their connections to this theme?
I can speak to some of that, Justin, if that's okay. I think it's important for our participants to be able to define some parallels with Native Hawaiian issues wherever possible, in order to invite our higher ed partners to our conversation. I think, just as Auntie Noe just pointed out, we all have different worldviews and different tenets of understanding, and I think that I'm just opening up our minds and seeing how possibly our issues intersect with issues important to Native Hawaiians would be important to bring them into our conversation. And how do we do that? I think we do that by being conscious of the terms that we use. I've had conversations with some of the Native Hawaiian higher ed folk, and they don't use a lot of the terms that we use in terms of retention strategies and et cetera, that we do in student services or in higher ed. And I think that being conscious of that and coming in with an open mind in attempting to learn a little bit more about how we might be able to invite others to the conversation be important. Uniting, I think, our common goals for social justice requires us to understand our collective struggles in order to move forward together. I think that this requires us to be open to acknowledging where our strengths intersect, whether they be racism, gender bias, or colonization. It's really important for us to be aware of that. Our world is becoming very small and our issues much clearer. And I think that inviting and being aware of our language and our intent is going to be much more important in the way we present our workshops in Hawaii.
Thank you.
For me, what I'm really interested in, and I've been saying this quite frequently, is how going to Hawaii challenges our conceptions of race, challenge our binary conceptions of race, because when we talk about race, we're oftentimes talking about Black, and sometimes the Latino community, and sometimes the Asian community, but most of the time we're talking about race, we're talking about Black, and we're talking about white. And so what I was really struck by when we went to the site visit is what does it mean to have a identity that is connected to land? that was really interesting to me. And so I would encourage folks to think critically about identities connected to land and challenging racial binaries.
The reflection, I guess, that I would offer to the conversation, Asia mentioned a site visit that we did in Hawaii, and it was a deep immersion into cultural practices across the island. So it wasn't just in Oahu. And, you know, similarly, I walked away with a deep appreciation for land-based identity and a historical connection to the land that I think for most continent-based people, we don't have. But then the way that that presents opportunity to solve modern day challenges based on systems of thinking that have been kept from us. And so the idea of setting our compass, I think, allows all of us to think about what kind of future that we want to sail towards, regardless of what past that we have sailed from. And so I would really invite attendees to be aspirational in that. If you were to set the compass, as Pua has asked us to do, what direction would we head in? What would that look like aspirationally and inspirationally? And I guess that's what I'd like attendees to be thinking about as they craft their proposals.
Yes, can I add something to that? One of the lessons from Papa Maupiailug, who Pua and I have had the pleasure of knowing when he used to come here to Hawaii when he was still alive, was that you have to know what your destination looks like. You have to be aspirational, and you have to have that vision of what that future looks like for you, so that as you set your compass, you know where you're going. So that is something key, and it's something maybe we don't spend a lot of time considering. What exactly are we trying to achieve? What does that future world, if not the perfect world, look like for us? And I think if we don't have that destination in mind, then we may not quite reach the goal or the island that we're trying to achieve. So something to keep in mind.
Thank you. Thank you for those responses. It really gives I hope it gives prospective presenters a lot to think about. I would simply add that expect different kinds of conversations to happen in your sessions when you get to your presentation in Hawaii, for people who have presented at NCORE before, people who are considering presenting for the first time. I think it's unmistakable the impact of going into Hawaii, what the environment there, what is more apparent, and perhaps than what you might see in the continental United States. I found myself really struck by the presence of military and the presence of American empire, and that strain seemed ever larger as we went through our time during the week and had our awareness raised by our Native Hawaiian cultural practitioner partners. I think that the strain of American consumer culture on the island seems much more conspicuous to me, and viewing it, and not say that knowing that we stayed on Waikiki Beach. That's where a lot of the participants will be staying. And I will have an impact on what people think as they're arriving into their sessions. And so I just wanted to share that. When we announced we were going to bring NCORE 2024 to Hawaii at our past conference earlier this spring, many people had concerns about going and about our deciding to take the conference there. And I really appreciated these concerns because they most commonly point to a sense of care amongst our community. And I've noticed these concerns come from a number of different standpoints, and participants are welcome to share theirs in the chat if they have them. But what I've noticed are people concerned that the Hawaiian community is asking people not to come to Hawaii, concerned about coming in the wake of the fires in Maui and contributing to environmental degradation, or perhaps concerned about cost or getting their institutions to support travel. And we've had a number of conversations amongst us. But I'd like if you would please share what comes to mind when you consider questions like, is it okay to go? in the context of attending a conference like NCORE in Hawaii?
Sure, I'm happy to respond to that concern, Justin. Pua and I chatted a little bit before we came on this webinar today, and this is not an activity that we normally participate in. Our life is very full of many other causes and activities and work that we do in our own communities and protecting our environment. But we agreed to participate with NCORE and with this committee here online with us because you are approaching your visit here in a different way, and something that we really want to support and hope that NCORE can be a model for other groups that come to Hawaii, especially large groups like yours, which have a more significant impact than small groups that come and visit and smaller conferences. And that is in the way that you are approaching the whole prospect of bringing upwards of 5,000 people possibly to our islands. The consideration that you have already expressed to us and you're sharing today about your footprint, your impact, your attitude, coming and even in the early opportunities to engage with you and your committee, both in Oklahoma and here in Hawaii when you came on the site visit, demonstrates to us a real concern and a real interest in doing things the right way. And so while it's important that business be conducted and that we appreciate that NCORE wants to come to Hawaii, how you approach and how we organize and help you organize everything that you do here so that your impact is the least on the environment and the most in what your attendees take away with them on their experience here. So it isn't Waikiki, which may sometimes be just considered the artificial playground of the rich and famous, because that isn't where we live. That isn't how we here in Hawaii live. But the opportunity to engage more with our own academics, our own residents, our own participants that we're urging to participate with NCORE. The more you learn about the issues that affect us here in our community and consider them in your presentations and in your discourse, the more you can take away how you enter into any community and engage in a respectful way, and then take away lessons is important to us. And so State of Hawaii and the Hawaii Tourism Authority, for which some of us have relationships with, is trying really hard to shift how tourism is experienced here in Hawaii. And what we call regenerative tourism is the new way we want for this industry to act. So to be less extractive and to contribute back into our community. Tourism is the major economic sector and driver for our state. And while we have lots of effort to diversify and to introduce other industries, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And we know that. So we do welcome NCORE, and we think that NCORE can be a very important contributor to our own environment and our own economy and our own community. And so we hope, as we mentioned, that NCORE can be a model in how groups like yours can come to Hawaii and experience that. And then the last thing I want to say is the size of the group pretty much dictates that this event stay on Oahu. The neighbor islands are not necessarily designed for groups of this size. So if the group is smaller, then you can venture into neighbor islands. Although we would encourage people to come early and visit, or stay after if they desire to visit other areas of the island, because each island is unique, each island is different, and has really great opportunities to continue the learning and the experience of our community and our environment. And we hope that when you do those things, you approach in the same way. So the great behavior of our visitor doesn't just start on the first day of a conference and end on the last day, but it becomes an enduring part of who you are. And I think that's the experience that we will want to share with you, and that we hope you enjoy when you're here in Hawaii.
Go ahead, Pua. You're muted, though. I want you to know.
I do see a few questions that are here, at least in the chat. And so I thought maybe I'd address one of them is about the economy and making sure that when you come here, that when you spend your money, that it support maybe local organizations or native businesses. And so we're going to do our very best to make sure that we provide you with that opportunity by what we're doing right now, organizing with the organizations in the community that we believe that you could support and feel really great about supporting them. And the second one was about protocol and bringing gifts from your elders or from your communities and from your tribal people, if your indigenous lands. And yes, there will be opportunity for that. And when you ask about what are the protocols for this, it is an exchange. And I would say that what you normally would do when you're gift giving, when you're exchanging, when you're conducting your protocol, it will be very familiar to that, because we are used to having exchanges with people in the form of gift giving and ho'okupu or offerings, and we will provide for that, and we will guide that as well. So if we could just take a step back, because maybe people don't really know who the native people are here, or compare us maybe to someone so that you're familiar. I think that if you look at us in a lot of similar ways as the first people of the continent to our Native American brothers and sisters and relatives, we are very similar to that. We are the first people of these lands, as they are the first people. We have endured the similar challenges. We are still enduring similar issues and challenges, and we are supporting one another in many of those issues. And the reason I bring that up is just to say that we are very similar to that if you don't have an understanding of who our Native people are. We are rich in tradition still, culture, gift giving and protocol is very important when we go to your shores or any shores beyond Hawaii. And so we will embrace that as well. And rest assured that you will be guided by us and by others to be able to do that in a way that you are comfortable with and you are familiar with. So just wanted to share.
Thank you so much for saying that, Pua, because as you were talking, I was engrossed by what you were saying, but it reminded me to say that we hope that NCORE is a model that you can share with other events, and by following your guidance and leadership as we continue through this process, I hope we are. And so I thank you for that. There are a number of actions that we've taken as a kind of a ad hoc committee amongst us and are taking to provide participants with information on what's going on to what going to NCORE 2024 can mean in terms of our obligation to Kanaka Pai'aina, people of the Hawaiian archipelago, and our obligations to each other. This has led us to collaboratively determine to ask participants to take the pledge to our keiki, which we've shared on the NCORE website, and we're sharing in the registration portal and our call for presentations as a framework for connecting to the theme as it was still under development. And we'll have a separate webinar with the people who have developed the pledge at a later date. But I wonder, what are you hoping for participants to consider when they take the pledge?
So maybe I can attempt to answer that. So the pledge is something that was created by a friend of ours who unfortunately isn't here today, but it is something that is being introduced to our elementary schools and throughout Hawaii. And it just seems so appropriate as the pledge was introduced to the organizing committee that that we not only adopt the pledge for NCORE, but that NCORE has its own statement. So, that follows each of the statements of the children, or the keiki. So keiki is child or children for us. I'm hoping that you can internalize this. I think it's a great topic or a great way to infuse pieces of the pledge into the proposals that are offered for the conference, and that the intent of this, all of it, as I was saying earlier, is that your experience of Hawaii will change you. That your experience of being here for the few days, even though for a few days, will give you enough of a reference of a different mindset, a different framework that we live in, and other people who live in islands have to understand in order for us to survive, really, for millennia. And so that pledge is a really great way to embrace and internalize this relationship that we have with our own environment. And as I used to say to university students that I taught back in the day, that this is something you take back to your own home. That if you've never considered it before, it's time to consider it now. And what can you do in your own home, in place where you live now, that you can bring these values and share them with the people that you engage with your family, with the people in your sphere of influence. And that's what I'm hoping that the pledge will mean for the NCORE attendees.
I really thank you so much for that answer. I think, Pua, you're about to jump in, so I'm not going to stop you.
What I want to add is that we're in a time period right now in Hawaii, and if you've been following us and especially, and not just limited to Mauna Kea over the years and our efforts to protect our sacred mountain, but also with the current issues with the water and the military, those are just two issues of a variety of challenges that we face living on small, tiny islands like the rest of our relatives in the Pacific. And I think it came time where we had to do something that would lay a foundation that would involve the youth, because the youth is who's going to inherit not just the challenges and issues we have, but hopefully are the ones that are going to find the solutions to what's happening, so that we can retain the Hawaii, at least that we have right now. So this pledge is really about the future of these islands, our environment, our cultural ways, our economy, everything about Hawaii. for the next 7 generations. So when you participate in a pledge like this, whether it's in Hawaii or in your own homeland, in your own community, it's a commitment. It's a promise that you're making that when you look around and you see what is happening to your community, are you in alignment with those changes and those shifts? And are they detrimental or beneficial to the future for the children? This is what it's about. For us in Hawaii, we're very cognizant of what we're leaving for our children and our children's children. And this is on our watch. So this pledge is real. For us, we're inviting you to be a part of something that is very current, very real, very important to us. It's kind of a win or lose sometimes. And we're here to win for our Hawaii. And I'm looking at a question right now that ties into that says, what's the best way to learn about real social issues of Hawaii from a non-biased perspective? I'm hoping that we're going to provide you with those opportunities as far as some workshops go. But what I will say is that our social issues, it's very hard to present from a non-biased perspective because we are living those social issues. And at least from our viewpoint, when we present about those social issues, it's full of fact, it's full of emotion, it's full of really knowing that this is a time in our history where we have to stand and do the best for every single person. And for you to come and experience that real life situation with us is really an honor for us, because in the end, we hope that you're going to walk away with knowing what we're going through and supporting not just us, but supporting your own community in the same way. So I'm really grateful for you to be here, because I've presented twice at NCORE on the continent, and I simply have so much aloha for this conference that I'm very thankful that you're going to be here personally.
If I could, I want to sort of make these ideas tangible, because during our site visit, you know, we did take the pledge, and we did enter with a degree of awareness, right, around our responsibility. And I was laying in my hotel room, and I had the sliding glass door open and the air conditioner on. And I said to myself, you would never do this at home. Why would you do this here? And this is not appropriate, right? And so there's like responsibility to taking care of the environment there, and how that translates to how I take care of it here. Or being really cognizant of the amount of water that I was using in my hotel room, right? You know, one of the aspects of the pledge is to not remove anything from the island, not to take anything home, right? Just and you when you take the pledge and you remember your responsibility, it brings it home for you, and you're much more sort of action oriented, thinking about what you should and should not be doing because of your commitment to protecting the keiki.
I also think it's to go along with that, Aisha. I think it's really, I'm happy you said that, because it's a deliberate and conscious decision that we have to make to take the pledge, and not only to take it, but to be it, to roll with it, and to deliberately conduct yourself in that manner. Otherwise, you just hear words and you go on being part of the tourist masses that you will see there in Waikiki. And when we were there, I think the hotel holds 4,000 people. So it's you feel herded at the hotel. But otherwise, I am hoping that the conferees are open to allowing themselves to see themselves in a different worldview, and also are willing to incorporate that worldview beyond the time in Hawaii when they get home. I believe that, you know, we, like the Hawaiians, do our work in the continent for our communities and our children and the upcoming generations. The pledge should format a way that we look at our own home environments as well, not just Hawaii. What can we apply from the pledge to our own home environments? And what would a pledge be like if we were to do that for our own community? That's what I hope we get out of this, because it's important to be able to see ourselves in that same way, not just in Hawaii, but in our home communities. One of the most moving experiences I had when I went on the site visit was the trip to Leeward Community College. And when the community college students had composed a song about their community and how proud they were, and they sang it for us. I mean, to think about us writing a song about our community and singing it for visitors was just powerful. And I don't think that could happen on the continent. But I wish it would. Yeah, I wish it would.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because I was, you know, when I said earlier that when I was struck by, you know, the presence of American Empire and the other things I said about my time in Waikiki. I also mentioned, you know, when I arrived, I felt abundant joy, being in Hawaii. I know I expressed that to you all. And I do think, you know, I do think there's something about how you guys sing to your land, and it loves you for it. And I think it still loves having people on it. You all did a really great job of anticipating how the Pledge to our Keiki might be taken into the future beyond the conference. I wonder, though, since we did introduce the Pledge to our Keiki to people who are considering to write their proposals as we were setting our theme to setting our compass, if you'll reflect on how do you think the pledge connects to the theme?
Well, I'll let you take that.
Okay, so in the beginning, and maybe we'll all learn this chant in the beginning, there has to be a sale plan. The pledge is a component of a sale plan. We've given you that sale plan. We've given you a framework. We've given you a goal in order to meet a destination. And so part of setting our compass is to give you as many frameworks as we can laid out in front of you. So it's a collective framework. So you'll come with your individual sale plan. What is it that I want to accomplish individually? What am I going to present? What am I going to listen to? What am I going to take away from this? And then how am I going to integrate it when I get home into what I'm going to do next, especially if I'm a teacher or someone giving instruction, as we all do when we go to a conference? What are we going to take away from this that's going to be a part of the next part of my journey? And that's about setting your compass. What is it that is my goal, and how I'm going to get to it is the sale plan. So we've provided for you a component of that sale plan in a framework that you can choose to accept or not accept, but it's a collective goal. So in some way, you're either going to be paddling and bailing, or both, in order for us to set this compass and get to our destination. So it's one component of many. Every time you set foot on the land and you have a different experience, that's part of the framework that's going to add to the pledge. Everything you experience is the pledge come alive. Is your actual seeing of this pledge in action. And that's what we want to provide for you. Every experience is seeing this pledge in action as you set your compass for your individual and our collective destination.
Can I also say that the value of our people from Hawaii in having a group like NCORE come to our own shores is that more of our people will be able to participate, hopefully, with NCORE, and coming to this opportunity to meet people, to exchange ideas, to learn from your lessons as well is equally as important. So, so while we encourage you to connect with with what Pua was just talking about with the pledge, and try and see how your material or how your experience has relevance to an island community, sometimes there are important lessons for us to learn just to see what happened in your own community, your successes and your challenges, and that's important for us as well. So, you know, I don't want you to lose sight of that, Justin, because it's just the opportunity for our community, our academic community, our nonprofit community, our people who work on the land and with our keiki of all ages to be able to participate with all of you coming from across the continent is a real opportunity for us as well.
Thank you. I want to touch into another question that's come in from the chat that connects to this and that we might clarify. And the question is, we mentioned earlier to integrate the language of Hawaii into how we present. Can you share some examples about how higher ed language differs on the island?
I just think that we use acronyms a lot, and we use models and things that we're used to from research, and even in the Native Caucus, I had 2 conversations today from folks working on workshops using language that we use internally, nation to nation building, and that wouldn't resonate much on the island if we say we're doing nation to nation building or we worship on that, because or government to government, those types of acronyms and references that we use here are implicit to the continent and not necessarily something that is open to sharing outside of the continent. That's just one example, I think, that I can give. Also acronyms in terms of the research that we use, data, references to certain data, terms that we use. We use iPads a lot, stuff. Those types of terms that we use, I think, we need to be cognizant, not necessarily are not universal terms. And I think we can kind of step back and really say what we want to say without having to use acronyms or terminology to be impressive to our other colleagues in other institutions. Just say what we want to say, and I think that just be cognizant of that we use esoteric terms many times just because we feel comfortable with them, but they're not necessarily common to everybody.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you for acknowledging that. Can I also suggest that we're encouraging our community organizations to engage and participate? I think there's a lot of value in that. And so you're right, they may not be familiar with all the higher ed acronyms. So, you know, wherever you can use a little bit more plain language or spell out what the acronyms stand for so that people understand what you're trying to communicate, that would be good.
Thank you.
No, I don't know if you remember me asking you this, but when we were at the Hawaiian Student Success Center, I asked, what does diversity, equity, inclusion look like in Hawaii? And how the term on the island is not the same as how we conceive it on the mainland. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So let me say two things. First of all, we're trying to train ourselves to say that our mainland is here in Hawaii. And it's not to it's not meant to be anything but that. This is our mainland. So, and I guess the continent is your mainland, but so that's a little bit of an interesting conundrum about just using terms. The other thing which Asia and I think got into a little conversation and is the whole equity of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion is a challenge sometimes when you're talking to a community that's so multi-ethnic and multicultural. And so, you know, when I think we had this conversation that you can get into discussions, binary discussions in other areas that just don't quite make sense to us over here. And, you know, some of the, as an example, we're really challenged when it comes to the US Census, because the majority of us end up in this column called 2 or more. You know, when it's time for you to identify your ethnic background or your racial distribution. And so what does that mean? That means nothing statistically to be 2 or more or 3 or more. And then you fall into deep discussions about culture and appropriateness, and, you know, which one of your ancestors do you deny if you choose to be Hawaiian versus Chinese, like in my case. For me, those are political questions because they end up with political ramifications, right? How census is used to distribute funds or other benefits in the US government. So it's just more to consider. Asia, is all I'm saying, is, you know, that I think living in such a community that is so everything, multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic, and multi-spiritual as well, just adds a whole different level of conversation to what I think will occur in NCORE. And sometimes leaves us here in Hawaii in a little bit of a quandary as to where we identify and how we identify ourselves. I'll say that when we went to the organization meeting that we went to just in this past summer, and one of the opportunities was to sit in the caucuses, and each caucus table was labeled. And for a minute, I wasn't sure which table to sit at. I could have sat at about 4 of them, you know. So it was just a different way to express our identity. And that's something that I don't think we normally do in such that way here in Hawaii.
Thank you so much.
Anthony had something to say, I think.
Oh,
I wanted to pick up on a question that was in the chat and try to address it if I could really quickly. So there was a question about pricing, where people, you know, like where to spend money and how to do that in a way that's not extractive. And I think there's 2 responsibilities. There's one on our behalf as NCORE in taking the conference there to think about how we do that. And I also appreciate that attendees are thinking about how to do that too. What I can tell you is that we have, from top to bottom, have looked at sustainable conference practices and are implementing every one of them that we can. If you haven't, you'll receive communication about that. We are sourcing everything that we can. We have a master list of everything that we can source on the island. And so we, in ways that we would have sourced those items differently in the past. There'll be a Native Hawaiian vendor fair, so we're in the process of organizing that. So that's a great way for attendees to personally spend their money in the local economy. And as always, we'll provide a Native Hawaiian business list of local restaurants, places to buy a variety of things. And so those are things that we always do. So we want you to know that both NCORE is very cognizant about where we're spending money, including like putting in where we want food to be sourced from at the convention center. So to the degree that we have influence about that, and we have some, we have asked for Native Hawaiian sources for those things. So I just wanted to give people a little bit of sense about what we're doing. And just quickly to say, this process, and we've heard it referenced, there was a program planning retreat last summer. Our Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners came from Hawaii to join us in Oklahoma for that. We then joined them in Hawaii for a week to get a sense of what was our responsibility, really, to the Native Hawaiian community, and then to the NCORE attendees, and trying to balance both those things. And so I'm thrilled that this is the culmination of some of that. So you're getting to experience a lot of what's been happening for months and months, but I also promise you it's just the beginning. There's a whole plan to lay out many of the things that we're attending to. The conference will be different from top to bottom. Pua had mentioned this about intentionality setting. It's really not something we had thought about in ways that we are called upon to think about it now. So the days, the weeks, the opening and the closing will all be different. So I promise you, we have learned some lessons, and we're continuing to learn some lessons. And this is all because, in addition to those site visits, we meet with our Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners twice a month. So we are actively engaged in this process of thinking through all the ways in which to make this reflective of their wants, needs, and desires, as well as the learning community of NCORE.
Can I continue that, Justin? Anthony, that was so well said, first of all. What I wanted to add to that is, just as Noi Noi and I are here, and Mahina as well, not here today, but involved in this intimately, preparing you to come to Hawaii, we also have to take on the responsibility of preparing our own community for your arrival, so that they are aware that you are going to be here. And part of those conversations and organizing is the invitation to be involved, but also just to let our people know that 5,000 of you will be on our shores, and what that looks like. And because we can't speak for everyone in Hawaii when we're here on these planning committees, or when we're organizing a conference with all of you. So it's an intricate, complex song and dance and prayer that we do as well, to make sure that everyone is informed and ready to be here. And part of that is exactly what Anthony was talking about, in that we are able to invite and inform as many of our own people to participate in whatever way they can and choose to in this conference as well, which will make it a unique experience for everyone. And I think we also want to say, rest assured that you're not the only conference that comes to Hawaii. This is an ongoing process. Hawaii is a destination for many conferences. So we are well used to numbers and conferences being here. But as Noi Noi said, usually we're not sitting in the front end to ensure the experience that you're going to have. Not always are we invited to be included. So we consider this a learning experience for ourselves as well, that you are providing for us, and also a privilege for us to be a part of this planning committee. And we will do our very best to make sure that everything is a beautiful experience for all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to answer a question in the chat, is that the vendor list will provide opportunities to the outer island vendors to participate, not just Oahu. I know that that's the case from our conversations, but I would like to offer, if you would like to suggest vendors, to email us at NCORE@ou.edu. We'll share those with the planning team and consider them as we're making our decisions heading toward the conference. So, the last element of the pledge to our keiki. Before I go into that, just wanted to notice, and this has kind of come up in some of our conversations here today, is that there are a number of ways that NCORE is being asked to support making the pledge to our keiki meaningful for our meaningful action for our participants, and not simply leaving our participants to their own to decide, as well as having support from NCORE. So I wanted to ask, what are the other ways that NCORE is going to support making this an action for participants? And I can just keep talking and answer if I wanted to let other people say what that is. Anthony, Asia, or
well, there's several opportunities I think that we can take advantage of, specifically doing work in the local communities or working with the local nonprofits. I think that there will be some opportunities provided to us if we want to spend some time or give some time and do some service learning with various organizations. I think that I'm working on trying to get the Native delegation involved with a couple of local community nonprofits, specifically the Paipai pond activities. On one of the days they're doing work out there and doing service learning work, or helping them there at the site, taking a group there to help work for half a day. That's a way we can contribute to the local community. At the same time, get to learn and interact with the local Native folk that we really need to learn from as well. So also, we're going to be taking a trip to the University of Hawaii on one of the days and interact with Native Hawaiian faculty and staff there as well, to interchange on talk a little bit about pedagogy and work that with our students. So some of those opportunities are open as well.
So I want to mention, thank you, Ricardo. I really appreciate you answering that. And yes, we are partnering with a number of local nonprofit organizations to provide volunteer opportunities that we'll share with the NCORE community. We are also in working with the developers of the Pledge to Our Keiki. We'll be working with them to provide through their platform a way for NCORE participants to sign up for volunteer opportunities, and also ways to support local community action, local community organizing as appropriate going to the conference. And so I look forward to those opportunities. And if you have suggestions on ways you would, for those that are attending, that you would like to suggest that we consider, and I'll give you a second to answer also, Asia, to please email us and reach out to us if there are things that come to mind that you're not seeing as we're communicating going into the conference. Asia?
We have a number of institutions that we're partnering with to bring service learning opportunities. One of the things I don't want to do is say the names wrong. And so that's, so if you are interested in potentially partnering with us to bring a service learning opportunity to participants, then you can email me. I'll put my email in the chat. But once, and they will take the form of pre-conference institutes. They'll also take the form of just volunteer opportunities throughout the conference. We'll also be offering some tours throughout the conference. So all the details of those will be released over the next couple of months.
So I'm mindful that we're coming up to the end of the time and that we've scheduled this for, and this really kind of connects into a good way to those last questions that I have for us today. With the last element of the pledge to our keiki referencing using only our stars as guidance, this will correspond to the closing session of the conference. And it's a little bit of a teaser to say that, and maybe too soon for these kinds of questions. But there are questions that we asked in our dialogues together is that what do you hope will be an outcome for people as a result of their experiencing NCORE in the context of Hawaii?
I hope that this is the best NCORE experience that your attendees can possibly experience. It will set new standards for you, Justin. It'll be hard for you to follow up after this, but that'll be the challenge. I hope that we're all transformed, all of us, including NCORE, and that our boundaries will have been expanded, our platform, our foundation a little stronger. And, out of this is our relationship with each other and our relationship with the Aina, with our land, so that we become better stewards and better humans, better people.
Thank you. You kind of touched on this, and I will say, no, I know a challenge accepted, always. But what do you? The next follow-up question I have, Asia, go ahead before I say
Justin,
that.
there's another webinar. Is that happening? When is the next webinar happening to talk about how to develop a proposal? We have a lot of questions in Q&A about developing a proposal.
Thank you so much for asking that. Yes, please do join us following, as there will be a kind of a 101, that's not probably necessarily the best way to describe it, but it'll be a session on composing a proposal, some tips, some suggestions on what makes a successful proposal. It should be pretty thorough. Please join that. Both of these sessions are being recorded, will be made available on the NCORE website, and will be shared via email as we lead to the conference. We want to make this as available as possible and approachable for people. I do thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today to talk about this, to share with the NCORE community what we're doing. Really grateful for that. I'm grateful to share in this work with you. I know that that's on behalf of all of the NCORE staff, and we are different as a result of this already. And NCORE is different and stronger as a result of this partnership already. And that's something that we will take going with us into the future as we use the stars to guide us. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Mahalo nui. Aloha, everyone.